Welcome to Trash Talk Reverse. This is Harry, and we're watching Season 1, Episode 2 of Game of Thrones. The last episode left me feeling kind of annoyed at all the characters and the direction that I know this show is going to go in. I also felt that the episode really dragged and there were a lot of pacing issues and a lot of story issues, but I'm looking forward to seeing if this next episode can step it up a bit. Without further ado, here we go.
The Shadowlands beyond the Shy murders all other grass. Dothraki believe that one day it'll cover everything. That's the way the world will end.
Not that that ever amounted to anything.
Boy means nothing to me. I can't stand the wailing of women.
Get him.
One word, and I hit you again.
I'm telling Mother.
Do you understand?
You can't.
With Tyrion around Joffrey, you'd think that he would at least have grown up to be less of a bitch. Robert and Cersei really were such bad parents. Like, y'all failed so bad.
Is Bran going to die?
That's what's even more wild. They're about to leave for King's Landing today, and just yesterday, or very recently in the time period, these two were getting it on in the tower. Y'all were about to leave. You couldn't wait.
It's no mercy letting a child linger in such pain.
And go celibate? Whores would go begging from dawn to Casterly Rock. Piss off the edge of the world.
Children don't need to hear your filth.
Yeah, they didn't need to see your filth, but honestly, Tyrion, in addition to Dany, really carried this storyline.
Well, even if the boy lives, he'll be a cripple. Give me a good, clean death any day.
Death is so final. Life is full of possibilities.
See, Tyrion used to be so interesting. Cersei and Jaime were acting so suspicious at breakfast. If I was Tyrion, I'd be like, what's up with you two? All that stuff about give me a clean death any day. Like, okay, dude.
Let me thank you for guarding us all from the perils beyond the wall. We're grateful to have good, strong men like you protecting us.
We've guarded the kingdoms for 8,000 years.
There was literally nothing to prompt Jon to say that.
Who cares how they're folded? They're gonna get all messed up anyway.
Tell him.
You're so skinny.
So are you.
See, this sibling relationship is very sweet. So when they finally are reintroduced to each other in season 7, I believe, it didn't feel like anything at all. It just didn't have that impact. That's the problem of dragging out this show so much. Because you can't wait for the moment for these two to finally reunite, but then it's been so long and their paths haven't even crossed. It's like you lose that momentum of wanting to see them reunite as brother and sister.
Sansa can keep her sewing needles. I've got a needle of my own.
What a weird-ass line. I might get the answer to this later on, but couldn't Ned have just brought this kid home and been like, yo, I found this kid stranded on the side of the road and didn't want to leave him there. Let's find a nice family to adopt him and be nice to him, because his parents are gone. Like, why do you have to say it was his own son?
I know we always talked about seeing the wall together. We can go out walking beyond the wall if you're not afraid.
From what I remember, Bran and Jon barely see each other at the wall, though, right? Or they never see each other? Or they barely miss each other? Which is disappointing. Again, the whole dragging things out.
17 years ago, you rode off with Robert Baratheon. And now you're leaving again.
Well, let's think about this. What if Ned had stayed? He probably wouldn't have died. But Robert Baratheon probably still would have died. And that's a rabbit hole for the fanfic enthusiasts to explore.
Next time I see you, you'll be all in black.
They don't see each other again, do they? See all these sibling relationships developed in these first 2 episodes. Nothing's really gonna come of them, I guess. I don't remember how Jon reacts to Rob's death, but I guess I'll have to keep that in mind later on.
The next time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother.
Well, they won't see each other again, so... Yeah, I just don't get why he was raised as a Stark. Well, I guess not a Stark, but a bastard of Ned Stark.
Oh, what was her name? That common girl of yours. Bessie.
Named after a cow.
Yours was, your bastard's mother. You never told me what she looked like.
Because she didn't exist.
No, will I?
Sometimes when you plan things out from the start, and your plot has to follow that, and your characters have to follow that, in retrospect, it really doesn't make sense.
Daenerys Targaryen has wed some Dothraki horse lord. What of it?
Finally, an interesting part of the conversation.
Soon enough, that child will spread her legs and start breeding. I'll kill every Targaryen I get my hands on.
You can't get your hands on
Ned should have done something about Robert, honestly, because he's annoying as hell, and certainly not a good leader. Why the need for this brutality? I know they want to make it seem like Dany's going through a lot of crap, and this is really hard for her to fit in with the Dothrakis, and that she's going to have a change of character as she fits more in with them, but this does not help. All it does is make it seem like, oh, I'm basically getting assaulted every night, so I'm gonna start to like it and change my life by liking it. I guess the Game of Thrones writers, both George R. R. Martin and the writers of the show, have been criticized for basically making it seem like women need to go through assault in order to change and become the people that they were meant to be. Dany doesn't need to go through that assault in order to become the person who she becomes.
Father was the hand of the king for 20 years.
Until your brother killed that king.
Right, like, I don't care that everybody hated the Targaryens. If I was looking at the Lannisters, I'd be like, y'all cannot be trusted.
That's why I read so much Jon Snow.
Long ass answer.
What's your story, bastard?
Ask me nicely and maybe I'll tell you, dwarf.
Jon sucks.
Everything's better with some wine in the belly.
People have criticized Tyrion's accent, but I honestly don't care.
I'll make the appointments. We'll talk about it first thing in the morning.
Robb Stark had the makings of a good leader, but he unfortunately fell prey to stupidity. Because that guy actually knew what he was doing until he got obsessed with Charlie Chaplin's descendant. That dude was so quiet.
I was 9 when my mother sold me to the pleasure house.
Yeah.
I did not touch a man for 3 years, Khaleesi.
Still, girl.
Can you teach me how to make the Khal happy?
This would have been more impactful if she hadn't been getting assaulted for the past 2 scenes with him. If she'd been consenting and enjoying, it would make sense that she would then want to make him happy, rather than using this moment to be like, well, I'm getting assaulted, so I'm gonna take charge now. Like, what the hell? Yeah, he's thinking, never mind, actually. These scene transitions are so random. Like, we were with Jon Snow and the gang for like 2 seconds between Dany and Catelyn. After they pushed Bran out of the tower, they must have sprinted to get the hell up out of there. Blows my mind that Catelyn sees this and later captures Tyrion.
Unless he saw something he wasn't meant to see.
So what, my lady?
Why are you telling Theon?
If it's war they want, if it comes to that, you know I'll stand behind you.
Is there going to be a battle in the Godswood? Huh?
So Theon's out here like, oh, I'll stand behind you. That feels really forced. Like, nobody asked you to say that in that moment or to prove yourself. Also, Robb in this situation is acting smart. So already it blows my mind that later on he's gonna be so stupid. Right now he's like doubting the Lannisters and he knows that they're sneaky and he knows that they're doing things behind the scenes. So why, oh why, did you not expect to be murdered in season 3? That is my question.
I don't think that Drogo will like it with me on top. You will make him like it, Khaleesi. Men want what they've never had.
Again, this would have been more impactful if those previous scenes had been consensual and not depressing as hell.
If he wanted the Dothraki way, why did he marry you?
Trying to please a man that was basically forcing you this whole time. This whole trajectory, this little character arc for Dany. I keep saying it, but again, this would have worked better if it hadn't been about flipping the tables on an assault situation. Her doing this because she wants to please him would have made more sense if we had given her a reason to want to please him. This arc is also a little bit, ooh, Western civilization ways are totally better than these savage Dothraki ways. And I'm gonna come in as this white lady influenced by this other white lady and change the Dothraki ways. But at the same time, Dany didn't grow up in the West. So I guess there is a little bit of nuance there.
Why won't he speak to me?
Sansa has been so coddled by her parents, like, there's no way you ended up like this. She's so meek. How did Arya turn out the way she did and Sansa turned out like this? I know not all siblings are created equal, but...
Butcher's boy who wants to be a knight, eh? Pick up your sword, Butcher's boy. Let's see how good you are. I'm your prince, not your lord, and I said, pick up your sword.
Sansa really saw this and thought, man, Joffrey's the one for me.
Stop it! Arya, stay out of this.
Shut up, Sansa. Oh my god.
No.
That close-up on Arya, though, like, the origins of her revenge-enda. Shut up.
Then go! Don't touch me.
Sansa's such a bad judge of character. Like, you have this dude being a dick in front of you, and you're still all tra-la-la-la-la. Their reunion in season 7 or 8, whatever it was, really did not feel earned, from what I remember.
How dare you speak to your king in that manner?
Shut up.
Quiet, woman. I never meant to frighten the girl. But we need to get this business done quickly.
Doesn't matter, you should have taken her to Ned.
They all attacked me and she threw my sword in the river.
Liar!
Shut up!
Joffrey is such a child.
I didn't see.
Liar! Liar!
She deserves that.
She's as wild as an animal of hers. I want her punished.
What would you have me do? Whip her through the streets?
See, Cersei's here like, oh, this little girl should be punished. That didn't give any of you a clue into the kind of person she is. For her to want a 9-year-old to be punished, Robert being like, what would you have me do, whip her through the streets? Like, that didn't give you all some insight into how Cersei Lannister's mind works, to the point where Ned was so disarmed around her later on in this season. The Lannisters are constantly showing their true colors, and nobody seems to take it in.
Children fight. You let that little girl disarm you.
See, Robert is right. But you were a bad parent to Joffrey, which is why he turned out like such a punk bitch.
We have another wolf.
But what does that do? What good is it to kill the dog that didn't do anything?
No, not Lady. Lady didn't bite anyone.
Well, Sansa, then maybe you should have said something. Instead of sitting there like, oh, I don't know what happened. I didn't see.
I'll do it myself.
Is this some trick?
Why would it be a trick? Y'all are gonna see the wolf die.
Butcher's boy. You rode him down. He ran. Not very fast.
See, Ned is seeing what the Lannisters are capable of, and he still showed them his hand. You have to be stupid. And honestly, it's not that Ned is stupid, it's that the writer needed him to die in order for the children to have their character arc. So they did it in a really stupid way that's entirely unbelievable to his character, being like, oh, honor this, honor that. No, Ned is not that stupid. He kept Jon as the kid of Lyanna and Rhaegar a secret for all this time. You couldn't keep the secret of Joffrey being Cersei and Jaime's kid until you had the leverage to expose them. It's unbelievable how they decided to make Ned stupid at the last second just so they could be like, boom. Well, that's a wrap on episode 2. This episode also felt a bit slow, but it definitely felt better paced than the last episode. I don't know why the last episode dragged so badly. At least this one, there were only a couple of times where I checked how long it had been, and it felt like it definitely flowed better and was better paced. Let's talk about the parenting of Sansa and Joffrey. How does someone like Sansa end up so stupid? I don't get it. Arya's smart, Bran's kind of smart, Robb is really smart, even Jon's not stupid entirely, and Rickon is 6, so obviously he doesn't count. But then Sansa is like the dumbest bitch you've ever met. Like, oh my god, she's dumb. I know that character arcs are there to make the characters grow over a series of strenuous circumstances, but did you really have to start her off this stupid in order to make your point and in order for her to grow and become the person who she is? And then there's Joffrey. He's really a symptom of such bad parenting. But, as we saw earlier in this episode, he did not grow up in an isolated environment. Obviously, Robert was mostly a bad parent. He was mostly an absent parent. And Cersei was a cuddling bitch. If I remember correctly, Tyrion is in King's Landing with Jaime and Cersei rather than Casterly Rock with Tywin. So for Joffrey to have the influence of Tyrion, at least to the point where Tyrion's able to discipline him in this episode, therefore showcasing that they've had a prior uncle-nephew relationship like that, where he's able to feel comfortable doing that and instructing Joffrey, he still grew up to be a bitch. Joffrey's one of those characters who seems like he's just there to be annoying and to be antagonistic. Which is fine, I guess. I mean, you can have characters like that, but if I'm reflecting on everything he does until his death, well, he treats Sansa like crap, he kills Ros. That's all I really remember. Oh, and he had all of Robert's other kids killed, right? Either he had or Cersei had. From memory, he just feels really inconsequential, and he just feels like a dick. I just feel like so many characters in this show are so stupid, or they do stupid things in order for the plot to progress in a certain way. Anyway, that's it for this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.